Zelensky bad news. If the West had the guts to actually help Ukraine, Putin's Russia would be sent back to Moscow. The Ukrainian counteroffensive drags on with little change to the day-to-day disposition of opposing forces. Despite Western pressure for Ukraine to take on Russian defensive positions it would never attempt itself. This is not meant as an insult to the bravery or hard work that went into it. It is simply a statement of fact. And now that the rainy season is approaching, it's starting to look doubtful that we'll make much headway this year. There are a number of possible explanations for this, including Ukraine's inability to produce adequate mass and force rations favorable to breakthrough, Western countries' refusal to supply weapons like ATACMS missiles and F-16 aircraft that could help them breach Russian defense lines, and a lack of suitable munitions and equipment to clear Russian minefields while under fire. It has also been suggested that the UKROF lacks the proper training in all-arms combined combat operation above the company, squadron level, which is necessary to facilitate the Western concept on maneuver warfare deemed essential to expel the Russian invaders. This could be the case, but an alternative explanation is that the UKROF has been trained by NATO and the West with the incorrect doctrine and tactics. Former diplomat Arthur Snell made the suggestion in a recent article for his blog. Perhaps he has a valid point. Let's take a second look at the Ukrainian resistance movement's current offensive. I, like most people, had the impression that the Western-trained and equipped Ukrainian armor would easily break through the Russian defensive lines and exploit the territory beyond. After all, that's how the military personnel of the West had been educated for the past 40 years. This, along with the doctrine that commanders should tell their subordinates what they should accomplish but not how to do it, became the standard practice that we all adopted. There has been a lot of talk about giving lower-ranking commanders, even down to the section level, the freedom to act independently and make decisions as needed. Compared to the Soviet and Russian doctrine of the recent past and beyond, this is a radical departure. However, it appears that the NATO training was ineffective. Perhaps this is understandable given the time it took the United States military to master maneuver warfare following Vietnam's defeat. Even though we were making progress during my time in the British Army of the Rhine in the 1980s, it took the United Kingdom even longer. It was probably too much to hope that the Ukrainians would grasp the concept after only a few weeks of training. They are currently stalled within Russian defensive lines due to this, a lack of equipment, and a lack of superiority. It wasn't for lack of guts, but rather inexperience and education. Photos of burned-out, abandoned Leopard 2 tanks made in Germany and Bradley IFVs supplied by the United States circulated online show the grim reality of the situation in a Russian minefield. Therefore, the Ukrainians have resorted to their old, more familiar tactics, which involve infantry clearing of the Russian minefields and a slow, methodical advance on the ground once the opposition has been subdued by artillery. This is difficult, hazardous work with a long learning curve. The enemy is actively trying to prevent you from advancing, and most obstacles are concealed by flames. The window of opportunity before the autumn rains turn the ground into a quagmire is closing quickly, and a breakthrough may be some time away under these conditions.